Over the last few years, lost media videos have become my personal podcast during my longer art sessions. While I'm drawing, my mind always wanders, and I ask myself how media that was once loved by at least someone can seemingly disappear into nothing. Does it make me procrastinate on my drawings? A little bit, yes. There's a few topics in particular that have stuck with me, particularly the lost media cases from my own childhood and the wider 2000s and early 2010s. Without further ado, these are some lost media cases that I think about when I am meant to be making my art. Powerpuff Girls Z is an anime adaptation of the massively popular Cartoon Network show Powerpuff Girls, where three girls, Blossom, Bubbles and Buttercup, born of a scientific experiment, must save the world from the monsters of evil. The anime adaptation takes some artistic liberties with the story and adapts the characters to better suit the magical girl genre, which was massively popular at the time in Japan. Retari Wa Precure released the year before Powerpuff Girls Z began its development, and it blew up in a big way. Everyday girls transforming into powerful superheroes gave young girls a sense of empowerment, and the Powerpuff Girls was basically the exact same premise. The most notable change compared to the Cartoon Network version is the Powerpuff Girls were not born with their powers. In fact, they are not even sisters at all in Powerpuff Girls Z. They instead get their powers from powerful rays from the Chemical Z, transforming them into magical girl-esque superheroes. However, they do still maintain most of their personality traits from the original, at least most of them do. Buttercup's real name is Kaoru Matsubara, and she is still a tomboyish, athletic character who doesn't like girly things. Rolling Bubbles, real name Miyako Gotokuji, is still very silly, polite and sweet. However, Blossom differs quite a bit from her Cartoon Network counterpart. Real name Momoko, she's actually a massive manga nerd who loves to read manga and to make references to her favourite Super Sentai series. She's more childish and she has a massive sweet tooth, easily convinced by sweet treats and cake. Powerpuff Girls Z did pretty well in Japan and had 2 seasons as well as a reboot in 2016. However, before every TV show there is usually a pitch pilot, and Powerpuff Girls Z is no exception. The pitch pilot for Powerpuff Girls Z was created in 2005, a year before the anime's distribution. The pilot, created by Toei Animation, has never been published in full. However, some fans were able to record short segments when the pilot was presented at the Tokyo Anime Festival in 2005. The only ones still available include the transformation sequence as well as a fight scene in the pilot. There's also multiple screenshots from the pilot, likely from the clips that have since been removed from the internet. The girls' designs in the pilot have pretty stark differences to the final designs of the girls. While their dresses stayed the same, they instead wore white bolero jackets instead of their vests in the final show. The pilot also didn't shy away from a more destructive theme, showing buildings being destroyed and overall action-packed feel. The girls also appeared slightly older, their proportions having their heads be smaller in comparison to their body. They might have been going for a teenager look instead of a preteen younger child look with these designs before ultimately pivoting to what they would make in the final design. I find the topic of lost pilots to be extremely fascinating. There's whole episodes that we were not meant to see, or that only a select few were meant to see. This isn't the only lost pitch pilot for Powerpuff Girls either. The pilot for the 2010s Cartoon Network reboot is still lost. Same with the 2021 pitch pilot for the Powerpuff Girls live action series. Funnily enough, the trailer for that was uploaded to the Internet Archive last month, which is crazy timing for this video, and me talking about Powerpuff Girls pilots. And to quickly make a note about that, it seems like a lot was made for that Powerpuff Girls live action show. The trailer has a lot of scenes and plot points in it, and I actually do think with some adjustments, this could have been a passable show about the Powerpuff Girls navigating the world as adults.
It doesn't matter if it's
Big and Small was a TV show I watched a lot when I was a kid. It was probably one of my favourite shows on CBeebies. Over its 3-year run, a total of 78 episodes were produced and aired on the channel. I watched the UK dub as a kid, but the show was also simultaneously aired in Canada with a different voice cast. If you're still scratching your head as to what this show is, or you remember it from somewhere but not from your childhood, the teeth brushing game from the CBeebies website went semi-viral a couple of years ago.
Uh-oh, you found the toothpaste? Let's get one thing clear. I can brush my teeth all by myself, okay?
But we're not here to discuss Big and Small's short-lived meme status. We're here to discuss its lost media. There's actually quite a bit of lost media for the series, not just from its multiple dubs, but also some other media such as a stage show. Big and Small was not well archived during its lifetime, and after its final airing it sort of fell into obscurity a little bit. Home media for Big and Small was scarce, and only a few DVDs of the series were released, containing 23 episodes across all the releases. Out of what's been found so far, only one episode of the UK dub is still partially lost. The Lost Media Wiki notes that the show seems to be more favourably remembered in the UK over Canada. The UK version even has its own YouTube channel, where many of the episodes have been re-uploaded in high resolution. The same can't be said for the Canadian dub, however, where Series 3 is still largely lost with only 4 episodes found. The only missing episode for the UK dub is the partially lost Spring Fling episode. Funnily enough, this is actually an episode I remember watching, because of the I'm taller debate at the beginning of the episode. Technically this episode is found in some capacity, however the audio is desynced in areas and the resolution is very low. Therefore it isn't considered to be a truly found version of the episode. Another piece of lost media from this series is the Big and Small Happy Together stage show, a Canadian exclusive stage show of the series that was performed on October 13th, 2011 in Ontario, Canada. The only evidence we have of this play taking place is a 1-minute clip and a variety of photographs from the event. It was only performed twice, both on the same day, so finding more footage is likely going to be a very, very big challenge. Lost stage shows have always been something that really interests me as a piece of lost media. They're a type of lost media that we will never be able to experience again in its intended form. You can't find and then re-perform lost stage shows. We will only be able to experience them through video. It does make me wonder if, when a stage show video is found, can we truly call it found? The Lost Pokémon Live Pro Shot is in a similar boat to the Big and Small show, but on a much larger scale. Pokémon Live did have plans for a home media release and a televised version, but these plans were ultimately cancelled. There is evidence of a pro shot being recorded in preparation for its media release, meaning this is another lost piece of stage show media. But back to Big and Small. I have a good feeling this show will make some progress in its discovery this year, and we might even see the UK dub be fully found and completed. As for the Canadian dub, I do hope that more episodes are found soon. It's not the version I grew up with, but thousands of other children did, and for them I really hope it's found. This is a bit more of an abstract part of the list, as it technically isn't lost media in the same way everything else on this list has been. I've loved Pokemon ever since I was a toddler. My cousin gave me his Game Boy and his copy of Pokemon Red to play. At the time I couldn't read though, and I never made it past the catching tutorial, but despite this, I've continued to grow up with Pokemon and I still love the franchise dearly. I recently became a Pokemon card collector and have developed a fascination with the series' scrapped content and its designs, which is what this section of the video is about. One of the most recent examples of this is Pokemon Rodeo, which was discovered in the Pokemon Terra leak that happened in late 2024. Pokemon Rodeo is a scrapped multiplayer spin-off game that was said to have a similar vibe to something like Splatoon. How similar to Splatoon it would have been is hard to say. Would it have been a 4v4 competitive Pokemon game? That is a pretty cool idea to think about, but it does feel similar to the concept of Pokemon Unite. Pokemon Rodeo was set to include rideable Pokemon, and concept artwork of trainers riding atop Pokemon such as Garchomp, Samurott, Electivire, and even Decidueye was shown in the leaks. There was also leaked concept art, character design, and even test gameplay for Pokemon Rodeo, showing a trainer riding atop a Garchomp while being chased by Mimikyus. Another interesting note from the Pokemon Rodeo pitch was the mention of smartphone integration. The pitch suggested that the game could be playable on both Nintendo Switch and smartphone. While likely unheard of at the time, the Pokemon Company recently announced a new competitive style Pokemon game called Pokemon Champions that was recently announced, which is aiming to offer that very same Switch smartphone integration. Maybe this idea was a concept left behind from the now scrapped Pokemon Rodeo, and I quickly want to jump in. I'm doing this off script, so this might be a little bit more iffy, but I was having a little look through the leaks again, and it seems like a lot of this content from Pokemon Rodeo has been transferred to another undercover project called Project Synapse, which I think has some relation to Pokemon Champions. I'm not 100% sure, I wasn't able to fully decode the leaker tips and everything like that. And by the way, if you can't see many pictures and things in this part of the video, it's because I don't want to get in trouble with Nintendo by showing you guys all the leak material. If you guys want to find it, you just have to type in Terra Leak and it's there. Some would argue this technically isn't lost media. Whether scrapped or cut content is considered lost media or not is something largely debated within the lost media community. Is something truly lost if we weren't meant to see it in the first place? Does something only become lost when we discover it exists? Prior to this leak, we didn't even know Pokémon Rodeo even existed. Is its remaining production material now lost media as a result? I'm no expert on it, but I would like to think that game development material is a form of lost media. I and many other people do love seeing how the games we love were made. The ups and the downs and the little pieces that didn't quite make it into the final version. I am okay with the fact that Pokémon Rodeo never came to fruition, and it may never become a real game. However, I do think it's a genuine shame that the hard work of the artists and developers that they put into this concept is just left to collect dust on a hard drive. There's hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours of work that will never see the light of day, not just on Pokémon Rodeo, but all the scrap content for the Pokémon series. And I do firmly believe that the Pokémon Company are missing a trick by not releasing development workbooks for their main series games. Sort of like how animated movies and other games create concept art books and development books for their main titles. It would be a fascinating resource as someone who loves all the behind the scenes stuff for games. Well, that was my little compilation of lost media topics I tend to think about a lot, especially while drawing. If you'd like this video and you want to see more videos based on the 2000s, art and lost media, consider subscribing. And if you liked any of the art I was working on in this video, consider supporting my journey as a full-time artist by picking up some stuff from my shop. If you want to say hi, share your work, or talk about lost media, I stream semi-regularly on Twitch, and I also have a Discord server where you can stay up to date on everything going on. I've also finally created an email list for those that want to stay up to date on my art and business more closely. If you want to receive product updates before anyone else, get exclusive discounts and even some freebies, you can sign up using the link in the description. That is all from me though this week. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.